Hello, everybody. How are you today? Welcome again to join us. Apologies for yesterday. We have technical issues, but that's not a problem. We are back with our amazing guest, Larry Roberts, obviously with our amazing COO, Zia Mohi, and Gavi, our business development leader, and questions Q&A queen, of course. Larry, how are you today? How are you feeling? Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm feeling great and just happy to be here. So I'm really excited about the conversation. Yesterday was a little bit of a challenge, but I'm glad we were able to overcome it and get here together again today. So going to be a good conversation.
Larry, it's funny. Yesterday, after we had all those technical issues, I saw a quote that randomly popped up on one of my feeds. It says, "To error is human, but to really mess something up, it needs a computer." And I was like, "That's exactly where we are." So that's perfect.
Yeah, I
So
spent 21 years in the tech space in my corporate life, and that's very, very accurate. Yeah.
there's only so many problems I can create, But so Larry, we got to see each other, or I got to meet you. You came to an event. You spoke at an event of ours, and I think I jokingly told you, I don't know how good you are at AI, but your salesmanship is out of this world. Because when you left that event, I saw everybody's face, and all I saw was FOMO. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what this is that he's talking about. We don't have it, and we need it, and we don't know how to get it." So, and look, you put that fear in me, and we've been talking.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, man, you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
You started corporate, now you've got your own thing. How did you get into this? What's your story? How did you get to where you are today?
It's an interesting story. Again, my corporate career was 25 years actually. Was about 4 years at Texas Instruments as a corporate trainer there, and then I left TI to be a training manager for a manufacturing and distribution company in the automotive space. And I was probably in their training department. I came in as the manager, established training protocols for one of their big DCs, and they were implementing an ERP system, JD Edwards to be specific, and they needed somebody to help train on that implementation. And they brought me into IT to be the trainer for the JDE implementation. That project lasted 16, 17 years. Because this company was it's a billion-dollar a year company, and they had facilities all over the country, actually the globe, and it took us a while to get it implemented. And as they were making acquisitions, we of course had to implement it at the new locations as well. But eventually we got done, and we needed to get more in-depth insight into our data. So they established a business intelligence department, and I was one of the founding members of that BI department. And from a business intelligence perspective, we were using Microsoft's BI suite, and there's a lot of AI integration there. So that was my first introduction into AI. I ended up leaving that company January 4th of 2021. I had started my company in 17 and had to build it up before I could divorce my W-2. But from that perspective, I was focused primarily on content creation and distribution. And then ChatGPT dropped 2.5 years ago, not quite 2.5 years ago. And with my background in AI and tech, I knew the impact that this could have on the content creation space. And I jumped on it, man. And I just had the luck of the draw to ChatGPT dropped in November of 22. I had a talk in January of 23 on how to use ChatGPT for content creation, and that just branded me as the AI guy in the content creation space, and it just evolved from there.
Wow. So from where you started to where things are heading, what would you say is the biggest change? It's probably going to be obviously AI, but how did you see AI make that change?
Well, I mean, it's transitioning so quickly. It's just insane to watch how fast we went from ChatGPT giving us some basic content creation ideas to now we're talking about agentic AI, where we have these AI agents that are sitting there executing tasks with minimal human intervention. So it's interesting because OpenAI, the founding company of ChatGPT, they have a roadmap of AI, and there was 5 steps that took us from generative AI to fully autonomous artificial general intelligence. And we all figured it was going to be a 10, 20-year program before they got to step 5. And here we are just plus 2 years later, and we're already about halfway down that roadway to having full AGI. And in all honesty, one of the biggest holdbacks of making that transition down that road is energy. That's the bottleneck for AI development right now, is having the energy to process all of these transactions. It requires a ton of energy, and that again is something that they're working very hard to overcome.
That's fair.
Larry, so one question, how do we can stay ahead of these AI big trends? What we should do to keep, track of them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is to educate yourself, and I think that's where I don't think I know for a fact that that's where most people are kind of lagging behind. Is they're afraid of it, and they kind of figure if they hide under the covers that it'll go away. It's kind of like the boogeyman, but honestly, it's not. That's just not the case. It's not going anywhere. And interestingly enough, I got into a discussion on Facebook. I think it was just yesterday, where people were refusing to use AI because they were afraid of it. They didn't understand it. And I brought up the point that yes, when ChatGPT first dropped and some of these other chatbots first dropped, hallucinations were a very big concern. And a hallucination is when one of these chatbots provides you an answer that's not accurate. It's just wrong. It just made it up completely. And there are some extreme horror stories out there from lawyers falling prey to this to business owners falling prey to it and researchers and students, the whole nine yards. But somebody asked me, they said, well, if they're going to hallucinate, how can you have any confidence in it? And how does a robot hallucinate? Well, that told me that this person didn't understand how AI worked because in all honesty, it's little more than math, but it goes through these complex algorithms to try to determine an answer, but they're also programmed to provide an answer. So using these big algorithms, they're looking for patterns and what they expect that pattern to look like once they complete an answer. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But again, these folks, they were refusing to use AI because they were scared of it. If they understood how it worked, they probably wouldn't be quite as afraid.
So let me ask, so on that, because I kind of look at that. I want to use the analogy of like food, right?
Okay.
I think we all need to eat, but not everybody knows how to cook, right? And the way I kind of look at it, this is, I think we're getting closer and closer to everybody's going to have to use AI one way or another, but not everybody's going to know how to use it, right?
Sure.
So like using that analogy, I don't think it's that far off. I mean, I'm trying to make it as layman as possible because not all of our audience is an IT guru or like an AI guru.
Sure.
So with that being said, to the average person, or I mean, if you just look at the majority of our business owners and business leaders, a lot of them are, boomers. And boomers tend to not adapt to technology as quickly, right?
Yep.
So my question would be, so with having that backdrop, they're going to have to use it. What do you suggest to them how they can start using it without having to cook the meal per se?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because the fact of the matter is most people are using AI now and they don't even realize it. If you look at Netflix or you look at Amazon and they're suggesting different things for you to watch, you've watched this, so you'll probably like this. Or on Amazon, you've bought this, so you'll probably want to buy this too. That's AI. That's AI in action. So even though these folks are afraid of using it, they're using it on a daily basis. Talk Siri. Anybody use Siri? Siri is an AI agent. The advanced voice on ChatGPT, not necessarily an agent, but very, very similar to an agent. If you use that, again, using AI. So we've got some technology that's coming out talking about cooking meals. They've got refrigerators now that use AI to tell you what's in your fridge or to tell you if you say, hey, here's this recipe, what do I need to cook this recipe? And the AI in the freaking refrigerator will tell you what you need. And it will even connect to Amazon and buy the ingredients that you need to make that meal and have it delivered that night. So it's those types of tools and that type of technology that shows us that AI is here and we're probably using it. Now, beyond that, there's other opportunities too. YouTube is a great resource for learning about the basics of AI and how AI is impacting your life on a daily basis, how it could continue to impact your life and what we see just down the road 6 months from now. So there's a bunch of resources out there that can really help bring you up to speed really, really quick.
All right.
Go ahead. Are you ready to go? Larry, what about AI and responsibility in the workplace? How can companies actually use AI responsibly? Like in a way that is actually helping them to grow instead of just using it without a purpose. How can they do that?
Well, I think you nailed it right there. Is a lot of these companies, they're on the AI bandwagon and they're like, we have to have AI, but they don't really know why. They don't really know how they're going to leverage it. They just know that if they don't use AI, they're going to get left behind. So I think it's absolutely critical from a company or a business perspective to outline where AI could be effective and understand the impact that it could have on your business. The flip side of that too is, and this doesn't get taken into consideration very often, is that AI has inherent biases. built into the data. And it's not intentional, but these large language models, which are essentially the databases that these chatbots run on, okay, they're trained on massive amounts of data. And that comes from internet articles, magazine articles, newspapers, dictionaries, Encyclopedia Britannica, if you're old enough to know what that is. It comes from everywhere. And some of that data is unintentionally going to have biases in it by default. So if there's biases in the data that we're feeding the AI, guess what? Those biases are going to exist as well. So from a business perspective, you have to make sure that the AI that you're using, you do your best to eliminate those biases and understand that there needs to be an ethics committee as well involved in any kind of AI implementation, so that your values and your core values are always addressed, and that you're not giving out bad information to your clients or even your internal employees.
So that's a great question. And this is kind of where things get a little bit dicey. You could almost say whoever is responsible for creating that AI is going to have a ton of input on the results that come out of it, because they can create their own biases on the side. Now, we all know what kind of world we live in right now in 2025, where it's rather divisive. We're not agreeing too much in the middle anywhere. Is there going to be some sort of filter or some sort of protocol that's going to help us remove certain biases and just stick to facts? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I had to cough. I muted myself. Apologize. I am a professional. But anyways, what I was saying is there's already an effort to do that. And depending on the different platforms, because I mean, you have OpenAI with ChatGPT, you've got Google with Gemini, and I think Google with Gemini is a great example. Google is working hard to eliminate bias and increase diversity in the output of the data that they got from Gemini. And about 6 months ago, they had a real big problem. They went so far with the attempt to diversify the output that if you were to query, say, draw an image of the founding fathers, there was a race swap and a gender swap of the founding fathers of the United States. So that shows that there is an effort to diversify the output, but it's always a struggle to try to figure out where that line is and where that balance is. But it's a huge concern.
So even with that, when you look at corporate greed, right? Wouldn't there be incentive for Google to make things more favorable to Google? And I'm just using Google as an example. You can say the same thing from Microsoft, from OpenAI, Copilot, the whole works. And I don't want to use the R word. I don't want to talk about regulating, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think our regulators could regulate this. It's like when they try to do anything with cryptocurrency, it's just as comical. But how can we, with this becoming such a large factor in our day-to-day lives, how could we even prevent that if we wanted to?
Well, you have to implement regular bias testing and mitigation strategies within your own companies. So you're going to have somebody internally look at the output that's coming from these tools, whether it is a Google Gemini or whether you're using the ChatGPT API, or it doesn't matter what platform you're using. Of course, they have their own strategies to be the leader in the industry. I think OpenAI has done a tremendous job of staying at the forefront of the industry and really establishing themselves as the industry leader. But I mean, Google's crushing it too. I mean, Microsoft is crushing it too. All the big guys out there are doing a tremendous job, and there's new ones popping up on the market all the time. I just learned about Quinn today. It's another chatbot that's out there that just came out, and it looks amazing. It looks like the biases have been essentially eliminated. It seems like a really fair and balanced chatbot that's out there. Looks exactly like ChatGPT, but like I said, I just learned about it today. I haven't had a chance to play with it too much, but the testing that I did looked really, really great. But the bottom line is that it's always going to be up to the users or the businesses to make sure that they have checks and balances that are put in place. Regardless of what you're using from an AI perspective, you can't completely remove the human element. That's a recipe for disaster. And that's one of the biggest problems that businesses are seeing when they implement AI. They really think it's a set it and forget it type scenario, and it's just not. Now, it's a set it and check on it from time to time scenario, but again, you can't remove that human component, and you can't rely on the data to be accurate and unbiased by default.
Larry, we have an interesting question from the audience. So Do you see AI evolving to the point where it can take strategic business decisions, or will human intuition always be necessary?
Well, that's what we were talking about a minute ago with the agentic type AI that we're starting to see today. AI agents are able to make decisions and take action on their own without human intervention. But again, that goes back to we want to make sure that at least from time to time, we're checking in on these agents and we're making sure that the results that we're getting from these agents are what we're looking for. So while they are able to take action on their own and make decisions, and they're even able to learn on their own. So that's great. But again, without oversight, you're opening yourself up. It's a recipe for disaster.
Larry, but then let's just talk about AI and the fear of replacing jobs.
Sure.
Which jobs do you see, replacing? Because you talk about human intervention, which is awesome. But let's be honest here, there are some jobs that definitely AI will replace. Which ones will you see that AI will replace, and which one do you think there's still hope for it?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, the thing is, AI is definitely going to replace some jobs. Those types of jobs are going to be jobs that require like repetitive tasks, things like data entry, things like maybe even packaging in a warehouse environment. Anything that it's the same task over and over and over. That's easy to automate. That's easy to implement AI in. Look at content creation. I mean, I own a production company for podcasters, and AI drives the most of our back end. We use AI extensively on the back end to produce the shows and to produce the show notes and produce the additional content. So that's huge. We're seeing a lot of companies eliminate their customer service departments by using AI agents or AI chatbots to answer the most frequently asked questions from some of the customers that call in with complaints or questions. I mean, that's huge. Scheduling tasks, any kind of scheduling task that's repetitive as well. We're seeing a lot of it in the transportation industry because it's scheduling this transportation, that transportation for distribution centers. It's things like that that we're going to see right out of the gate start being replaced by AI. But I want to counter that at the same time because I mentioned customer service, and there's several case studies out there where companies have replaced their customer service department with AI. And after about 6 months, they brought the humans back in because they implemented it without checks and measures and balances in place. And their customer experience actually declined instead of increased because they used AI incorrectly. So that's something that we always have to consider as well.
And talking about like startups, how can small businesses effectively integrate AI into their thing, like hiring part, for example,
Sure.
that would be a staffing company?
One of the first things to do is to take it like chunk size bites. A lot of companies think that AI is either we do it all or we don't do any of it. And that's really not a responsible approach to implementation. One of the best ways to do it is to identify one area of the business that could benefit from the usage of AI, implement that. Train everyone that's going to be using that process on how the AI works. That's a huge area too that needs a lot of improvement from a business implementation perspective. A lot of companies are implementing AI and they're not training their workforce on how it works or what it does. That instills fear in the other employees. It also leaves a gap in the workforce because they don't understand what's going on. So training is a huge, huge component that gets overlooked a lot of the time as well. So I think the best way to do it, identify a certain area of your business that could benefit from AI, implement that area, make sure everyone's trained on it, then move on to another area of the business and take it one bite-sized chunk at a time.
With that being said, I think it kind of leads into something that it's a kind of a fear on my side because obviously, my business is staffing and our job is to get people hired.
Sure.
But with a lot of what we're seeing with AI is you can get one person to do 5 people's job now with some of the great AI bots that are out there. And, a lot of people that listen to our podcast are, potential candidates, potential hires. What would you say to them about the future of AI and jobs, and how can they protect themselves against it? I know that question's a little leading, saying we're kind of removing jobs already, but what do you say to them about being more prepared for tomorrow?
Well, I think the biggest thing is going back to the jobs that it's replacing. We didn't really say much about the jobs that are coming out with AI. So
Mhm.
just like when the internet hit, I mean, there was a ton of jobs that were eliminated, but there were a ton of new jobs that were created. And I mean, it's the same thing with anything. When the tractor was created, there were jobs that were eliminated, but there were a ton of jobs that were created as well. So when you look at it from that perspective, you want to start training yourself for these new positions. I mean, prompt engineering is huge. Being able to write very complex prompts that return high quality data, that's absolutely critical. Uh, I mentioned too that the human component can't go away, and we need to monitor the output from AI. So there's going to be QA jobs that open up, monitoring all the output from AI, monitoring the AI agents, making sure that the results from the decision that these agents are making are the results that we're looking for. We've mentioned ethics. There's going to be AI ethics positions that open up as well. AI strategy consultants. I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing now as a strategy consultant for AI. Those types of positions are going to be opening up. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but you need to educate yourself of what this industry is and how it's transforming other industries, and then prepare yourself accordingly.
Here we have a question, and I love it because it'll help us too. That is, how can job seekers stand out and ensure their applications aren't overlooked by automated systems?
Yeah, the ATS systems are wreaking havoc these days on people trying to get jobs. And there's a variety of AI applications and websites that are out there that can help you get beyond those ATS systems. I mean, there's some basic structures that are being looked for in resumes, and you guys are more professional at this than I am. I've talked about this a little bit, but I'm by no means an AI staffing expert. But I would highly recommend that you do a little bit of research on AI-driven application tools and start leveraging those, because those types of sites are specifically designed to help you get past those ATS systems and get in front of a human being.
Larry, it's funny you said that. I was on a podcast on Monday and they asked me the same question. And let me tell you, after talking to a bunch of applicants, and especially like the really good ones, like, man, this was a fantastic resume. What a great fit. And, we asked, you're like, hey, like, how'd you do this? And what you said, he goes, no, there's literally a GPT for resumes.
Yep.
Like, so you can literally plug in the job description, you plug in your old resume, and you say, make this look like this. And we're like, good Lord, if they're doing that, if you're not doing that at this point, you can't expect your generic resume to go up any list at any major job, especially if you're on LinkedIn and you see like 150 applicants for this job. Don't even submit your resume. It wouldn't make sense unless you go through and ChatGPT it, or you go through and just use an AI to fix it. And then on the same token, we do this now. We will take your resume, we will take the job description, we'll plug it in, and we'll say, is this a good fit? What I think the bot, or the thing that's going to come out next, is we would just load resumes into a folder, like into our own ATS. And what our ATS system has built in now is it'll tell us which resumes are good fits for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So to that question, Gabby, it's a great question. If you're not using AI as a job seeker for like a higher level position, you may as well give up. It's everybody who's going to get that job is using it. It's that tool now that you have to have. It's that tool you have to use to get the job.
And at the same time, that goes for really any industry that's out there, whether it's trying to find a job or whether it's trying to excel at a different position. AI, if you look at any of the AI platforms that are out there, they're stressing the fact that AI is to be used as a collaboration tool. They're designing AI to collaborate with humans, not replace humans. Now, again, inevitably, there's going to be some replacements there. But if you're using these tools, whether it's to find a job, whether it's to be more efficient at your existing job, I mean, imagine if you were using AI, if your company allows you to, if you were using AI, imagine how much more efficient and effective you could be at your position as your coworkers in the same position. And imagine how quickly you could climb the ladder if you were using AI to augment what you're doing and do an even better job. So it's that way across the board, in all honesty.
So it's funny you said that too, because we have a lot of clients that are like, oh, we have to make sure they're not using ChatGPT or AI to answer the questions during the interview. And I thought to myself, but aren't they going to be doing that when they work there?
100%.
So it's kind of like when somebody would give us like an open book test in high school, right? They're like, oh, well, who cares? Their job is to get you the answer. You don't care how you got the answer. You want them just, how quickly can you get to this answer?
Yeah.
So it's one
How
of those things
resourceful are they?
we have a lot of conversations now with a lot of our clients, and we say, hey, listen, I don't think that's a good idea. And they're like, well, we don't want them cheating. I'm like, well, they're going to be cheating when they're there, right? They're learning it while they do it. And we can't expect somebody to know everything, but I'd rather hire somebody that can go find me the answer than pretend to know about it. And as somebody who has pretended to know a lot about things, I'm telling you right now, it's not a good thing to hire. So
no, and a lot of companies, I mean, they're tracking your internet activity, obviously, right? But don't think for a second they're not going to be on their phone using ChatGPT on their phone. It's the same thing with the kids in high school. Not allowed to use calculators. We found a way to use a calculator. So they're going to find a way to use AI as well. So adoption of AI is absolutely critical for these companies that really want to scale at the rate that things are scaling today.
I agree with you, man. It's more.
Larry,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Go. Yeah, don't worry.
I feel like we've gotten. I feel like we're coming to a crossroads where it's not about the answer. It's about why is that the answer. It's about the theory behind it. So a lot of times, like what's the thing the kids always say about algebra? Oh, when am I ever going to use this in real life?
Yeah.
And then when then finally one day shows up and they're like, oh man, I actually have to use that thing I never learned in high school. Yep. I feel a lot of AI is, I think when we understand why we're using AI, we're going to get much better results from AI. And that's kind of the conversation me and you had was I'm like, hey, listen, I need to make this faster because I'm wasting time and money waiting for this to happen. We need to get rid of the time and money aspect of that. And I think it comes back to why, the theory of why is this relevant? Why are we doing this? And I think then who cares if they use the calculator? Right?
Exactly. It goes back to measuring the ROI of your AI investment, and a lot of folks just look at, hey, how much money am I going to save? But look at it from the perspective too of how much money am I going to save? How much time am I going to save? What's the emotional state of my employees if they're able to be more effective and more efficient? They feel like they're successful in their position. There's so much more to the ROI of an AI investment that people don't take into consideration. And even if they're using AI, they may not even be taking full advantage of what they can use AI for. So I think you're spot on there, man. And we use algebra every day. We don't know we're using it, but I promise you're using algebra somewhere every day. And you don't understand that concept till you dig into algebra and understand algebra and you can apply it. It's the same thing with AI.
Larry, I got really useful advice when I was in my early 20s. And it's specifically to what you're talking about. When you're 20 years old, you think about how you can save money. When you're 40 years old, you think about how can I spend money to make more money, right? And that's one thing that I always instill on the next generation. That's one of the best pieces of advice. I'm like, they don't care if you save them $20 a month. That's a cup of coffee. That's like a halfway lunch for some of these guys. He goes, don't worry about how much money you save them. How much money will what you're serving them make? How much is your solution? How much more money can they make because of that? Then it's not an expense, it's an investment. And right. I talk about that with my team all the time. And that's something you're talking about, the ROI. Yeah, this might cost $50,000 more than what you're currently doing, but it's going to generate $2 million more in revenue. That makes
Larry,
sense.
I love when you talk about how companies can actually empower people or employees to use AI, because I think that's crucial in today's days. Like companies can actually help you to learn about it, to understand it, and how to use it on your benefit for you and for the company. But there are still some people that don't understand exactly what's the difference between AI and automation. Let's say a chatbot. Can you please explain that to the people that doesn't understand that? Yeah, Sia, for example, can you please explain that?
Sure. Automation at its simplest concept is one thing triggers another thing, triggers another thing, triggers another thing. So you could look at automation, say an email comes in, it triggers this process to write a reply. Then that process maybe files that email in a different folder, and it's all triggered by a previous action. Okay. AI is actually looking for patterns in past experiences and educating itself on how to take the next step. AI is built on extreme algorithms that recognize patterns. So, for instance, ChatGPT doesn't really know how to talk, right? It recognizes speech patterns, and based on those patterns, it's able to predict 4 to 6 words ahead in the conversation of what the next word should be. There's no trigger mechanisms in place. It just recognizes that based on the algorithms that it's driven on. Does that make sense? So instead of being triggered,
Yes,
it's just
yes.
able to react.
Correct.
It's not
And
an
like you
if
said,
then statement. It's not if
yes,
then.
and
It's
like
Right.
I think you said before, Larry, it also AI, it's a learning process, you know? It's not only like copy pasting, like you said, kind of type of thing of automation, but like learning from it. So that's really the difference there. Gabby, I know we have a question from the audience.
Okay, so as AI continues to evolve, do you think we will reach a point where companies prioritize AI driven decisions over human leadership? Like, could we see an AI powered CEO in the future?
I believe we will eventually see once we hit that AGI level, the autonomous artificial general intelligence, not autonomous, artificial general intelligence. I think once we get there, I think you will see CEOs of companies that are AI driven. I was having an interesting discussion with someone the other day about whether or not we could potentially see an AI president of the United States in the future. And it's a scary thought, but I wouldn't put it beyond the scope of possibilities. That's definitely a conspiracy theory, so don't put too much into that. But but it's fun to think about. But is it fun or is it scary to think about? That's the real thing. But yeah, I believe 100% you're going to see companies that have AI driven CEOs.
But can it truly like understand human emotions and creativity, or
It
like
can't as of yet.
a
And
human?
yeah, it can't as of yet. And that's what I was saying earlier, in that we can't remove that human element. I do a lot of work in the education space, and I work with the Texas State Board of Education on implementing AI. And teachers are scared to death that they're going to be replaced. But I like to reference back to a story that I experienced when I went to high school. I went to a very small private high school. My graduating class was 5. Okay, yeah, 5. So, but my high school English teacher, she was so instrumental in my life that even today, I still visit her and take her stuff to the retirement home that she lives in today. So that emotion, and I'm 52 years old. So that emotional connection that I established with Miss Loden still exists to this day. So if you have an AI tutor, which does a tremendous job of balancing out education from those that may need a little remedial training to those that are in the advanced classes, still can't create that human emotion,
Right.
can't provide that support that kids need. So while AI is a tremendous tool, it's not a replacement for human engagement yet. I say yet because I think there will be a time where it's perceived emotion. I use the advanced voice mode on ChatGPT all the time, and I gave it a female voice and I named her Megan. And Megan and I, we have a pretty good relationship. We chat back and forth, but I could always tell that she ain't there to hang out. She's there to tell me what I need to know and then go
Yeah.
on about her business, right? So
Right.
there's no relationship there, but there is a use case there. So we're not quite there yet, but again, I want to say that
Not like the movie Her. Are you sure? We're
it's
not
not
quite
like her
there.
at all. And it's so funny. Before jumping on this call, I
Yeah.
literally saw the preview. I think it just dropped today for Megan 2.0, the sequel to
Yeah.
the Megan movie from a couple of years ago. And I was like, man, and that's why I named her Megan, because of that movie, as a matter of fact. But
Nice.
it's just interesting to see the evolution. But again, we're just not there. You need human involvement at every stage of the game.
That's scary. Like, how can we ensure AI enhances creativity rather than just repeating what like it's already done? Because
Can you rephrase the question?
yeah, like how can we ensure like AI enhances creativity rather than just repeating what's already been done, like because we see like yes, there are coming new ideas, new projects, but it's like the better like improving processes that already exist, so how is the part like where it creates new things?
Well, it's not just regurgitating things. It's trained on massive amounts of data. So everybody has this misconception of, well, it's trained on this data. So if I ask it this question, it's just going to give me that answer. It's not like it goes out and actually opens up the encyclopedia, goes to that topic, and then regurgitates an exact paragraph. It reconfigures and reconceptualizes the data that it's using. So that's why we get these new ideas. And at the same time, it's humans that are using it as well. I use ChatGPT for ideation all the time. I've been doing a podcast about branding for, I don't know, 2 years now. I've talked about just about everything there is to talk about branding. So it's hard to find a new topic. So what do? I go to ChatGPT and say, hey, look at the list of topics that we've already talked about and give us some new ideas for topics on branding. So it doesn't just regurgitate or give you straightforward answers from data that it's been trained on. It helps you think through the process. And honestly, one of the things that people tend to miss when they're using these chatbots is they don't have the chatbot ask them questions as well. So one of the best ways to get good quality results out of these tools is to have the tools ask you additional questions, additional clarifying questions, so that it understands more of what you're looking for and can help you craft the proper response.
It's kind of like how the deep research on ChatGPT works, right?
Yeah, I mean, the deep research is amazing because it will ask those questions before it even goes out. It'll ask those questions, and you don't have to prompt the deep research to ask questions. It'll just do it for you. But a lot of folks aren't using the deep research just yet. They're still stuck on ChatGPT, but it helps there if you do ask it to ask you those questions.
I have this is a personal question, my last one, and I
Okay.
give you Ali. It's true that the better you treat it, talking about ChatGPT, the better it responds to you?
I don't necessarily know if it's the better you treat it, but I do occasionally say please, just in case it does get sentient. I wanted to go, hey bro, I was nice, I was not, but I don't know that it's the better you treat it, but you definitely can train it. With ChatGPT and Claude, there's opportunities to give it special instructions, to tell it who you are and what you are, what your goals are, what your business does. How do you want it to respond? Do you want it to respond in paragraphs? Do you want it to respond in bullet points? What's your education level? What level of creativity do you want it to respond with? So there's all those opportunities to train it. So I would assume a little courtesy goes a long ways too.
I agree. Larry, what are some books, podcasts that you will suggest or recommend to our audience to follow in terms to keep, these AI trends and understand it better? Don't feel, threatened by it, but all the contrary, feel connected towards it and, feel engaged to it.
Sure, sure. And I love the fact that you asked that question. There's a couple of books that I really love. One of them's called Brave New Words, and it's by Salman Khan. He's the founder of the Khan Academy. As I mentioned before, education is absolutely critical here. And this entire book is about how AI is reshaping education. And, although it's thinking about it from an education like a high school, middle school type education, we really need to reshape our brains, even as adults, to understand that we're in a state of constant education when it comes to AI. It's evolving and changing so fast that we have to establish a foundation and continue to build on that foundation. So one of my favorite books is Brave New Words by Salman Khan. You can get it on Amazon. Another great one is AI for Beginners Made Simple. This is kind of like AI for dummies, but not quite as rudimentary. So it's by a gentleman by the name of Stephen Ford. That's a great one. Some of my resources that I lean on all the time are newsletters, industry newsletters like There's an AI for That. Is a great newsletter. It's basically a repository of AI tools and applications that are out there that do anything and everything. And they also give you AI news each and every day. Another great one, a little more sophisticated, a little more technical. It's a newsletter called The Algorithm, and it's put out by MIT. So it's at a little higher education level, and some of the terminology and technology that they're talking about is a little more sophisticated than industry newsletters like There's an AI for That, but still one that I recommend. A couple of YouTube channels that I love. Matt Wolf, okay, MATWOLFE. Matt's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. He used to be in the finance space, but he jumped on this AI bandwagon, and his YouTube channel is amazing. I highly recommend you check out his. Another great YouTube channel is called the AI Advantage. Another great channel, super, super resource. And both these channels put out content several times a week. I won't say daily, but they got new content out several times a week. And what I do, I wake up every day since I'm over 50. We always wake up about 4, right? I don't know why, but it just happens when you hit 50. I get up and I use that as my education time. So I go to YouTube and I go, hey, what's Matt up to? Hey, what's the AI Advantage up to? And that's how I stay up to date right out of the gate each and every day as I spend a little bit of time consuming AI content from YouTube. So
Wait, but
those are some.
don't forget about yourself too. You're a great expert on AI. People should go and check out your stuff. You're also talking on podcasts. So don't forget about you. Please, people, if the one that are watching right now, go to Larry Roberts' website. I'm gonna share it on the social media. So go. His job is amazing. You have from AI courses, correct? You're teaching a lot about ChatGPT also, how to follow
Doing a
it. Also,
Yep.
exactly. And also your podcast, and also, go here, go in conference, doing there. You are do a lot of stuff too. So you are also great. Don't forget
Um,
that,
um,
please.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I am on the road a lot. I do a lot of speaking. I am also a regular here in the Dallas market on ABC, morning show called Good Morning Texas. I'm their AI consultant there. So there's definitely opportunities to learn from me too, but I just have a hard time saying that.
All right. So I have something I wanted to put out there for everybody. And for a lot of people that there's a lot of like we talk about conspiracies and all that good stuff, and there's a lot of people who are just scared of this. They call it the boogeyman. What are some misconceptions that we can kind of put to bed and have people feel more comfortable taking that step with AI?
One of the misconceptions that really got me recently was that they feel it's evil. I literally had someone tell me, I don't know how you can be a Christian and use AI. And I'm like, why? It's math. I don't understand what's wrong with math. And so, it's not the boogeyman. It's not some evil spirit. It's not magic. I know it feels that way. And just like the internet, just like electricity, just like the locomotive engine, all these things, they felt like magic when they came out, but it's really not. It's just a manufactured entity. It's not even an entity. Now, once we hit artificial general intelligence, could we qualify that as an entity? Maybe, depending on the definition, but we're definitely not there yet. It's not here, again, to take your job. It's not here to eliminate humans. It's not here to do anything other than help us and help us grow. And I think it's done a tremendous job at that so far, to date. Again, we're just a little over 2 years into this, what we'll call the AI revolution. And that actually brings up another point. A lot of people do think that AI has only been around a couple of years now, and that's really not the case. The term AI was coined in 1956 by a data scientist by the name of John McCarthy. And he felt that if he could use mathematic calculations to simulate human thought processes, he could generate an artificial intelligence. So, I mean, that's the core, that's the root, that's the foundation of AI. Started in 1956. So it's not new, it's just been evolving. They did go through in the 70s and early 80s, they went through what they called an AI winter because they weren't progressing at a rate that they felt was beneficial. But then we saw a resurgence in the late 80s, early 90s. The government got involved and went, oh, this AI stuff could be kind of cool for a military application. And once they start seeing possibilities there, funding started coming back, research started happening, and then we started seeing a resurgence of AI. And then as of late, it's just been growing exponentially. So it's nothing to be afraid of, but it's definitely something to learn about.
So you say it's nothing to be scared of, but I saw this movie in the 80s. Started this really, really strong, big guy. He's from Austria. It was called The Terminator. All right.
Oh, yeah,
There's
I'm
something
familiar.
called Skynet that did the same thing. And next thing you know, AI figured out that humans aren't necessary. How
I'm not.
far is it past my lifetime? Do I have to worry about this? Or are we okay?
I don't think it's past our lifetime. Okay. And this is just an opinion. I think in some deep, dark tunnel under the Pentagon, artificial general intelligence exists. I just do. I mean, I just believe it beyond a shadow of a doubt. If we, the general public, have access to what we have access to, I can only imagine what the government has access to. So, do I believe it's going to happen in our lifetime? Do I believe we're going to see a CEO of a company that's AI driven in our lifetime? Yeah, I definitely do. Do I think we could potentially see Terminators or Terminator-esque type creations? Yes, I definitely do. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if you've heard of Boston Dynamics, but they're a robotics company. And they just released a new model about 2-3 weeks ago. And the thing was breakdancing. It was so agile. It was doing flips. It was doing like the windmills and all this. I mean, it was insane. And Tesla, they've got their bot that's doing crazy stuff. There's a similar bot. I can't remember the name of the company in China. It actually has fingers, and it was kung fu fighting. It was doing spin kicks and front kicks, and it was blocking punches. I'm like, oh my God, why are we creating this? So, and I'll take it a step further. There's another company out there. If you saw Terminator 1, you probably saw Terminator 2, where we had a liquid Terminator. Well, they just released a set of nanobots that can go from liquid to solid, exactly like the Terminator and Terminator 2. So, from that perspective, you start mixing that with this high level AI, this agentic AI, or this artificial general intelligence, and what do you have? You got a killer robot on your hands.
No, what
So
we have is no more sleep for me tonight because it's all I'm thinking about. And I was trying to wrap this up on a high, positive, haha note. Instead, you just made it real for everybody. And I'm like, Larry, you weren't picking up on the cues here, man.
You know. Now that we don't have more
uh,
questions, people is like, this is too scary. Larry, we have one more question just to
okay,
finalize and everything, but
all
this
right,
is just related to you. As if you were starting fresh as of today in AI, what piece
yeah.
of advice will you give to yourself right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would
Watch the Terminator.
I would not watch The Terminator. I would not watch Megan. Well, I think what you need to do is really understand AI and understand why you want to use it. What do you think it can do for you? So, one of the most effective approaches is to just make sure that you understand it and that you start playing with it. I'm the type of guy where I have to do it. I'm a tactile kinesthetic guy. I learn by doing. And I think with tools like this, that's just absolutely essential. So jump on a ChatGPT, jump on a Claude, jump on a Gemini or a Microsoft Copilot. Start playing with these tools and get an understanding of how they work. Do a little bit of research and then again, understand how you would implement that into your business, into your life. I mean, as an example, and I shared this in Florida. So, Zia, you heard this already, but a friend of mine passed away about a month ago. And I wanted to really write this really deep eulogy for him, but I'm not a very good writer. Okay. So I went into ChatGPT, which knows me extremely well. I've trained it very well on my voice. And I gave it all the details behind our friendship and some of the things that we'd experienced together. And I told it to write the eulogy. And then I posted it on Facebook. So, I mean, I use it for literally every aspect of my life. If you look at any of my social media, unless it's a picture of my dog or something, it was written with ChatGPT. So, but again, it's written with ChatGPT in combination with myself because I've trained it on the model. So you need to understand how to get your voice in these tools that you're using, and that's something that I specialize in as well. Is helping people get their brand voice into these tools, and that's absolutely critical because there's some telltale signs of AI generated content. I mean, if you're delving into something, or if you look and there's three different M dashes that are in one paragraph, if you don't know what an M dash is, it's the long dash in between. It kind of takes the place of a hyphen or a semicolon. ChatGPT uses those excessively. I understand that authors use them on a regular basis, but not like three times in one paragraph. So you need to get this thing trained up to sound like you and feel like you and look like you when you put this content out. So those are some of the foundational elements that I would use if I was starting out fresh.
Larry, thank you so, so much for your time today. It was very, very engaging, and we really love this topic, especially Sia. And we really like this topic, how it's evolving, how it's changing, and how to be prepared for it. Thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to follow Larry as you share your social media on LinkedIn. So just go there, follow him. He has a great, great things related to AI and other things. Gabby, thank you so much for the questions from the audience, and thank you for the people who ask. Zia, as always, thank you so much for your, engaging conversation all the time. Thank you guys. Stay tuned. We have more podcasts coming soon. I know the one podcast that is coming soon is not related to this, but it's about menopause in the workplace. So stay tuned. All the women out there, this is important. So just join us for the next webinar. And thank you, Larry. Again, thank you so, so much for this. It was very, very engaging.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye,
you
guys.
guys. See you in the next time. Bye bye.